Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside AWAI. My name is Rebecca Matter, and I am joined today by my partners in crime, Katie Yeakle. Hi, Katie.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Pam.
And our Director of Training, Pam Foster. Hi, Pam.
Hi, everybody.
We are excited about this episode, if you will, of Inside AWAI. If you're brand new to us, normally we cover how to bring clients to you, how to land clients, how to find clients. There's so many ways to land clients that's typically a conversation that we have a lot. It's also because it's usually a fear or an unknown that new writers have. How am I going to find clients? So we cover it a lot. And so if you're brand new, we highly recommend you check out the archives because we have literally done probably a dozen sessions by now on getting clients and building a business. What we haven't talked about though is the next fear that potentially pops up, and that's, oh my gosh, somebody just called me. What do I do now? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We want you, since we've given you all this great content about how to bring clients to you and how to find them, we want to help you handle that next hurdle, and that's what do you do when they actually reach out. So our goals for this webinar, really it's all about giving you confidence in this. So as we go through the material today, don't allow your brain to feel overwhelmed or, oh my gosh, what if that happens? And just kind of sit back. What we're trying to do is demystify the process for you and kind of walk you through what to expect so that when it does happen, it feels like second nature to you, right? You've already kind of been through this once before. So we're going to first start out by talking about what clients actually look for when contacting a writer. And hopefully if you have picked a niche, and if you haven't, something we recommend, it's another Inside AWAI webinar. If you have selected a niche, hopefully you have clients contacting you because you're in your niche. And we're going to talk about that today, but we'll talk about what are the things that you want to put forward, both when talking to clients and when presenting yourself through your various marketing materials, your LinkedIn profile, your website, things like that, so that you know what they're looking for. We're going to talk about the very first thing you should do when contacted, when they reach out and say, hey, John, I'm curious about what you can do for me, or I'm looking for a writer like this. What is it that you do in that next minute? And so Pam is going to talk about that. We're going to go over the conversation. We're going to talk about some of the questions that you might hear, even the ones that really might not be the most common, but the ones you might be fearing. A client asks you, we're going to go through those and give you some answers so that you can handle those with confidence, and you can drive that conversation like a pro. We're going to tackle the question that comes up that also writers fear most: what do you charge, and how to tackle that conversation. We'll go into that in specific. We're going to talk about some great tips at the end. Katie's going to show you how to just win them over into getting them to say yes. And then we'll give you some closing tips and then open it up for a Q&A at the end. So at the end of this, if you have questions, just write them down. You can put them in the Q&A during, or if you want to hold them to the end, that's okay too. And then we will basically answer every question you have that we haven't answered during our time together. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on in to give you that confidence in how to handle potential new clients like a pro. So Pam, I'm going to hand it on over to you.
All right.
Just before you get started, just one thing.
Sure.
The excitement that you feel about getting a new client, the client has about finding a new writer. So I think by kind of setting that or revealing that truth right from the beginning, this isn't just a one-way street. So I just wanted to throw that in there before we got started.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that. What they're looking for and what their worry is when they call you. I mean, they might be in a place where they're trying to market their business and they've run out of great copy and they don't know what to do next. So they're as anxious as they might even be more anxious than you are. So let's talk about all that. So first of all, what we're here to do today is to help you get set up to handle every new contact with confidence, with a system for yourself, so you're not thrown off guard when you hear from somebody. So let's think about what clients are looking for first, because that kind of framework will help you realize how you're going to be a superhero to them, not someone who is kind of, gee, hire me, pick me. No, it'll be more like, I am the person who's going to solve your needs. So first of all, they're looking for writing skills. They're looking for someone who knows how to write web copy or sales copy and email. And you can learn how to do all those things. They're not experts at any of that. So they need your skills. They may not have anybody on their team. I mean, they may have a creative department in-house if it's a mid-sized company or larger, but they may not have a writer who really understands great copywriting. So first and foremost, your skills are number one on their list. A big bonus is if you also know their industry. Here's an ad for a freelance copywriter in the roofing industry, and they want experience with construction and roofing. If you happen to have that background, already you've got that open door, like, oh, you already know our industry, you already know the jargon, you already know everything that I don't have to teach you about my industry. You already know that. You know the landscape. So that's a huge bonus. But so those two things are a given, you know, writing skills and an understanding of their business or industry is great. But also they want a pro. They want to know that you're a pro, and you can show them that by really listening to what they're looking for, guiding the process like a professional. And we're going to walk through all of these. Understanding and explaining your fees. So don't worry, we're going to show you how to do that. And then closing with confidence and clear next steps. That's something that may be alien to you, so we'll walk through what that looks like. And Rebecca, I hear typing. You might want to mute. I don't know if I...
Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's okay. No problem. All right. So how do you win over those prospects? Listening is so much more important than you would ever imagine. I almost call it therapy because clients who contact you are in need. They are looking actively for someone to help them. So coming from that perspective, and we have a great Inside AWAI session that we already recorded. The link is down at the bottom of the screen, and you can't click it now, but when we watch this replay, you can click on that link and it'll take you to that. Or you can go to Inside AWAI's on our website and find that session. It's really important because knowing where the client's coming from is half the battle. And where they're usually coming from is they either are running a marketing department or they have a small business they're running. They might be running a creative team in-house, but they have a lot of pressure. They have pressure to drive sales. They have pressure to find great resources who can do the marketing pieces, the copy, the design, the website. And so they're in a tough spot. They're really challenged every day to make sure that they're standing out from the competition, that they're writing emails that engage their customers, that they're bringing in new leads or prospects and sales. So you are part of a puzzle for them that they have to solve. So when you think about that, it gives you more of a service position or a helping position versus please pick me to write your copy. So they're going to be calling you. They found you online, or they met you in person at a business event in town, or however they met you. That's where they're coming from. They're very nervous and stressed and hopeful that you're going to be able to help them. So the very first thing you should do when you're contacted, whether it's by email or phone, is that you want to set up time to talk and listen and ask questions and go through a consultation, a mini consultation. I have heard a couple of stories where a client would reach out to a writer by email, and the writer would simply just say, "Oh yeah, I can help you. Here's my my fee schedule." Fling, and they just fling it over the fence, send it back an email, and the client's like, "Well, you don't really even know what I want yet," or "You don't know about my company yet," or you haven't established any kind of relationship. I really need someone who's going to care about my business. So that's where listening is your ace in the hole. You'd stand out immediately by saying, "Let's schedule some time to talk." And nowadays, most clients are not going to be in your town. I mean, we work with clients from all over, right? All over the world. So they're very accustomed to setting up a meeting like this, like you and I would be on a Zoom meeting. We could do this with a client, or, you know, simple phone call setup. But it's your chance to start establishing a relationship and showing that you care and that you're a professional who is thoughtfully going to help them, not just flinging your rates or your services at them with an impersonal email. Okay, so that's number one, in my opinion. I've seen it make a difference when you can set that call up and talk to the client. So part of that conversation is to ask the right questions. So you might be wondering, what the heck do I ask? I don't even know. So you would want to have a prepared list. Here are just some suggestions. We have other resources for you to add to this, but these are the basics. You might want to start out with, well, what is your mission with this project? So maybe a client called you and said, our website isn't showing up in Google searches. We're really worried that the content isn't either optimized or very good. And so you would start out by saying, well, if they haven't given you the website domain or address yet, ask for that. And you could look at it even during the call. You can look at their website and go, okay, I see your website, and tell me what the mission is with this project. And so they'll say, well, I need help with the web copy. I need my pages to read better and to be optimized for search. I need the things that people are searching for related to my business to be the copy to be woven with those words. So if someone's looking to crate train a puppy, for example, and your company sells crates, I mean, your client's company, your prospect's company sells dog training crates, crate training a puppy should be in their copy. So when someone searches how to crate train a puppy, that will be in the client's copy. And if it isn't right now, that's an easy, wonderful thing you can do to help. Then you want to know who their audience is. This is really important because sometimes clients don't really know how to speak to their prospects. And as copywriters, we do. That's what we're learning to do, and that's what we do every day. We understand that you have to speak directly to your prospect to resonate with them and have a conversation with them. So knowing the client's prospect is super helpful, because if they say something like, well, our audience is mainly new parents. So you're like, okay. So I can kind of get an idea of what new parents might be thinking about. How do I get my baby to sleep at night? What happens when they're colicky every day at 6 o'clock? You know, how do I prepare them for a trip? Just all these things that new parents who've never had children before worry about. And so that knowing that prospect for the client that calls you is super critical. And it can open the door to a great conversation, like what kind of people are you looking to attract or looking to speak to, or who are your best clients, customers? What kind of things do they like you for, know you for? Those kinds of clues will help you a lot in understanding the prospect's need with you. The third thing is, what have you tried before? Well, we have a website that's really old now and it's not working anymore, but you know, we have tried that, and for a while it was working. Now it's not, because our competition's websites are better and mobile friendly and all that groovy stuff. Or they might say they tried email campaigns, they might have tried video. Some of it might have worked for them, some not. And you might ask, okay, a follow-up question. Why do you feel your current efforts aren't working? Or why do you feel like your website isn't currently working? Or the emails you're sending out? Or the videos you're producing? And they'll usually, that's where the therapy really comes in. They just spill their guts to you. And they're so usually happy to have someone to talk to about this, because they want to fix it, but they just don't necessarily know how. So you're setting the stage now as a consultant, a confidant, someone who can take their problem and solve it for them. And that is huge for clients. So you can see how probing questions can lead to great points for you to touch upon on how you can help. One of my favorite questions too is, what would a great outcome look like for you? So a no-brainer one is, well, my website would show up better in Google searches, or my emails would get better open rates, or the videos would get more clicks to a lead gen page that we're trying to collect leads on, so our sales team can follow up. So asking that question tells you, aha, so if they want their emails to have better open rates, I can solve it with great email subject lines, because that's what I do as a writer. So see how that listening can really set the stage for you to be the superhero? A lot of people overlook that. And that to me is the #1 thing you can offer that sets you apart. So as you're having this conversation with your client, and it may only be like 15 minutes. You may have a quick conversation, it may be a little bit longer, but that whole time you're listening and you're confirming what you're hearing. Like, okay, so I hear that your email open rate is really lousy. And then you dig deeper. Like, when's the last time you tested email subject lines or tried something really creative or conversational? Or, you can ask more questions. And ultimately, what is the client really asking for? They want more leads. They want more. The clicks are one thing, but what does that actually mean to the client? So you'll get there by asking these questions. More clicks means more engagement, and it means more people going to the website or buying a product. That bottom line, so what goal? So ultimately, the question is for you to solve, what is the problem that the client has right now? We're not getting enough leads through our emails. Aha! That's when you can start solving that for the client. So we have another Inside AWAI session that we did with some role plays of having these conversations with new prospects that call. It's called Talking to Freelance Writing Clients, How to Manage Conversations with Confidence. And we covered a few different scenarios that might happen. So check that one out too, because those are actual role plays of what can happen during a conversation. Now, the other thing that clients really, really want is to pro. The worst thing is to have them call someone and say, well, how do you work? Well, we just wing it. I kind of like, you really want to have a system where you're set up behind the scenes to drive the conversation like a boss. And what I mean by that is, if you're new to this, have a questionnaire. We often call it a creative brief that helps you guide that conversation even deeper with clients, or you can also send it to them after the initial conversation to get some details on their business. You also would have a system like, I'm going to put a production schedule together for you if we're going to work together. I usually send things by PDF. Is that how you'd like it? I also can send you a proposal after we're done talking within 48 hours. Those kinds of things show that you already know what you're doing, and that gives great relief to the prospective client who's calling you. So we have a couple of resources here for you. Inside AWAI, AI is the first one, setting up your freelance writing business. Check that out after this. We also have a product called Essential Templates for your copywriting business. And that's where we have templates and we explain how they're all used for everything I discussed and way more. But the thing is, if you have a process, if you're set up as a business and you can show them how you work, they're going to be blown away and go, all right, fine, we're working with a pro here. This is great. One thing about having a process, though, is that you want to be flexible because each client may work a little differently. Some of them have an in-house team. Some of them use a virtual team, such as a web developer and a designer that are freelancers and they work with virtually as a team. And you may be part of that virtual team. Different parties may be involved on the client side. For example, I work with a lot of corporate clients in freelance life. And the person who contacts me is not the only decision maker or not the only person involved in the decision. So I may ask who else would be looking at the proposal and weighing in, and can we get together on a Zoom call like this so I can explain it to everybody in the room at once. So find out those things up front as much as you can so that you can guide the process smoothly. Now, the third bullet, your role might even be different, is that you're expecting they're going to call you to be a writer, to write the copy. But let's say they're trying to launch a new e-newsletter. They might need you to help plan out the topics, plan out the calendar for the year, figure out how to drive the email newsletters to sales letters or sales pages on the website, things like that. So be flexible, ask questions, and then finally ask, how do you prefer to work? Do you want me to put a production schedule together? Do you like to use Word or Google Docs? Do you have someone that will be my liaison, or are you my liaison? You know, how do you prefer to have this role? And when you ask these things up front, they're going to be like, whoa, okay, you're really a pro. A few more tips. After your conversation, you want to wrap it up by checking on agreement. And what I mean by that is wrap it up by reiterating what you heard the client say, what the goal and the mission is. Okay, from everything we've talked about in the last 20 minutes, I'm hearing that your emails aren't getting opened, and even if they are, people really aren't clicking through to the landing pages or the sales pages on your website that you want. So that's the problem we're going to solve with my help. So just make sure that everybody's on the same page and agreeing on the same mission. Then you want to discuss schedule expectations, like when do you need this to happen? Oh, they might say yesterday, or they might say, well, we have a big campaign we're rolling out in October, so we need to have everything lined up for that. Usually they have an expectation of when they need to have this done. So ask them. It's great to have as much clarity as possible on what you're doing. And then don't end the call until you make sure you've covered everything you can think of that might affect the project and how it could be a winner for you. So again, we have that talking to freelance writing clients role play. Check that out so you can see how this all plays out. What I meant, plays out. All right, here's the big question. Clients will say, many prospective clients will say, what do you charge? Now, if you're writing web copy, it can be very simple. It can be something like, well, to optimize your website and write wonderful sales copy for each page, I charge between $500 and $800 a page. And that includes keyword research, writing the content, doing research on what your prospects care about and how you're better than the competition and all those things. So, and then writing the copy and working with your web developer. So that's 500 to 800 page. If they're saying, I need an email campaign, you might say, well, how many emails? You know, are you doing them weekly? How, you know, find out the parameters. And then the best thing is if you have a fee schedule that you've already created for yourself, you can whip that right out when they say, what do you charge per web page? Or what do you charge for blogging? What do you charge to set up an email, e-newsletter campaign? And the thing is, you know, you don't necessarily have to show this fee schedule to your clients, although occasionally they ask. I've done work for ad agencies at times and they need to know my fees because there's markup for them and they need to make sure that my fees will fit within them making a profit. And sometimes I'll even negotiate a little bit lower so that I can get a great project with them. But the thing is, without having a fee schedule of your own, without having ranges of your own, you're kind of grasping at straws when they ask that question. And you don't want to do that. You really want to be prepared for any type of fee question because it does often come up in that first conversation. It's great to know this up front because if they're tire kickers and they have no money for you, you won't have wasted time doing a proposal and following up and all that stuff. They'll be like, oh, well, those fees are too high for me. I'm going to move on. That's not your best customer anyway. So have a nice day. Or they might say something like, those fees are too high, but what can you do for this budget? And maybe you can help them with a partial project or something for that budget. But if you don't have a fee schedule at all, it's really loosey-goosey and hard to present your value, quite frankly. So create a fee schedule. We've got these 3 resources for you here on how to do that. One of them is a free report on copywriting rates for 75 different projects, which is really helpful. And I stole some of that stuff to make a fee schedule that you're seeing on the right part of the screen here. And again, these are just ranges. They're for your reference unless a client really needs to see it. But we also have a couple of programs, in one in particular, AWAI's Simplest Guide to Pricing Copy Projects, and that walks you through not only the pricing, but how to talk with customers about it, for clients. Now, the fee question also can be solved by you asking a question back to the client. So they might say, what do you charge for this? Now, a lot of companies already have a budget. I used to work in corporate America and we had budgets. We had annual budgets, we had campaign budgets, we had expected budgets for certain roles like design and copy. So we kind of knew what we wanted to pay. So ask the client, just say, you know, well, do you have a budget in mind? And every now and then they'll say, yes, we actually have a budget of $6,000 and we need, you know, 12 web pages. Is that going to work for you? And you're like, ta-da, easy peasy conversation and everybody's happy. Quite often, you'll be surprised. Some clients that you would think wouldn't bat an eye at your rates might go away. They might go away and say, wow, that's too rich for my blood. And then other clients may go, no problem, let's just move forward. So never be shy about presenting your value. You don't want to cut yourself short. Now, having said that, there are 2 times when I have gone down in my rates for very specific reasons. One was I wanted to work with an agency where they handle everything. They've got the client, they've got the creative brief already, they just need me to do my writing, they've given me keywords. So my job is a lot easier. So I don't mind knocking off some of my per page rate or for whatever I'm writing, blogging, web pages, whatever. That's one scenario because the work comes in and they pay well and it's great. So I'm happy to give a little discount on that. The other one though is that you never know, you could phase, well, no, I guess I don't want to skip my second point about cutting your rate. If you want to get started and get your foot in the door and get some traction and get clients, projects that you can show as samples, start with a local business, start with a small company and maybe do trade. Or, you know, I've done trade with my accountant for, I don't even want to tell you how many years. I do his website and his client newsletter, and he does my taxes. You could do that with a veterinarian or other kinds of companies. Or maybe I know a person who's, let me write some web pages for your fitness company in exchange for my fitness monthly fee, or even just in exchange for me to have a sample and a testimonial. That's perfectly fine because you definitely want to try and get some traction. So when the next prospect calls you, you can say, check out this website I just did. And then the third thing too is you don't have to go down on your rate necessarily if they don't have the right budget. You could say, well, let's phase the project. So let's say they wanted to do their whole website. Well, they can't do their whole website with your budget. So say, well, what are your like top 6 pages that are the most important to your business? Let's start with that within this budget. And a lot of clients go, wow, that's a good solution. Let's do that. So I could go into pricing for an hour, but we have a program, we have other pieces for that. But I just want to give you a sense that it's going to happen in the conversation, and I wanted you to be prepared for that. Finally, you want to close with confidence. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't want to say something like, well, now that we've had this great conversation, do you think you want to pick me maybe, possibly, maybe? You don't want to do that because then that makes you sort of beggy sounding. I just made up that word, but you want to have a confident stance that you guys are going to work together. Now that you've established this relationship and you've listened to the client and you've understood their needs, you're going to help them. So again, summarize what the client needs. You need better emails. Make sure the client's clear on how you can help. Well, that's my specialty. I write email copy, and I have been able to write subject lines and messages that have improved open rates for my clients. You might even have some percentages depending on how much experience you have. Like open rates have gone up by 10%, something like that. But just wow them with your awesomeness, and close by assuming you've got the project. You can say things like, I'll send you my proposal within 24 hours, and it's going to include a recap of what we talked about, the things I will offer you, and my pricing for the things and how it'll work. Okay, so that's a very confident, professional closing line. You also may want to say, let's schedule some time to review the proposal together, especially if there are more than one coworker or something who's going to be involved in that final decision. And then wrap it up with an assumption that you're going to start the project. Like, I can start this, you know, assuming you're good to go, I can start this next week. So let's get going. And that's a real confident way to leave the conversation so that the prospective client's like, okay, I can't wait for this proposal because I've just talked to someone who's heard me, who seems to know how to solve my problem. We've discussed the rate and it's within my budget, and I want to get going, but I need to get approval from someone senior in my office or whoever that is. So see what you've done there? You've put it on the client to wrap it up, but they're primed to do so. Okay, now that I've gone over what to do and how to handle calls, I'm going to give it back to Rebecca to talk about common questions that you might have about talking with your first your first conversation with a new prospect.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. And for those of you who are asking about replays and things, we're going to have this all out to you. You'll have access to the recording and all of the slides. I know Pam sounded a little bit wonky there at times as the internet was dragging from across the pond, but you'll have all of the material sent to you tomorrow. That was a lot, right? Like hopefully that demystified a lot of your concerns, apprehensions, wondering of what would happen. Some of you are asking questions about, this assumes that you already have people contacting you, but how do you get people to contact you? We've covered that in so many sessions in the past at Inside AWAI, and I'll be sure to include a couple of links to those sessions in my follow-up for this and below on the playback on this page. So you'll be able to get to those. But let's go ahead and tackle some of the questions. Now we mark this as common questions, but we're actually, when I looked at the section, what I see are questions that writers fear getting, not necessarily the most common questions you'll get. I want to make sure that you have the answers to the ones that when the client does ask, you're like, oh, how do I handle that one? So we'll go over those, but know that this isn't necessarily the ones that are going to come up every time a client calls you. So the first one, do you have experience with writing for the pet market, writing white papers, writing case studies, etc.? Hopefully, if you have done what AWAI teaches you, and if you're brand new to AWAI, we have something called the AWAI method that walks you through kind of all of the steps. One of the first steps in all of this is picking the right niche, which is an industry niche. So, whether that's healthcare or self-help or financial or whatever it is that your background is in, we walk you through how to pick a niche. The other one is picking project types. What kind of projects do you want to work on? You don't have to work for all of them, but we do recommend picking a niche and picking projects that are used in that niche. So whether it's B2B, whether it's web, again, whether it's healthcare, or solar technology, or plastics, like whatever it is that you want to do, you will do some research to find out the types of projects that are being used in that space, the ones that they use for their marketing materials. And hopefully your LinkedIn profile and your website, the things that you're doing to attract clients to you, have those things on them. And that way, when the client is calling you, they are your ideal clients. When you go through past Inside AWAI webinars, you're going to hear that phrase again and again, how to attract your ideal clients. When you're first starting out, you kind of feel like, I don't want to limit myself. I want to cast the net as wide as possible and get as many people to contact me as possible. But when you do that, these conversations get a little tricky, right? It gets a little difficult because you don't have experience in all of these areas. So hopefully you've picked your niche and you have some level of experience or interest. At this point, that's what you'll talk about. Even if you've had zero working experience. Let's say, I always use this example because I'm a mom of 2 young kids, but let's say my niche is writing for infant safety products. I'm going to talk about that. So do you have experience with infant safety products? I do. I'm a mom of 2 young kids. I know exactly who your prospect is. I know what it's like to be up at night thinking about, is my baby sleeping? Is the bath temperature the right thing? Are they eating enough? Am I feeding them enough? All of that stuff. I understand exactly who your prospect is. And so I can get into the heart and mind of your prospect. And therefore I'm a great option for you as a copywriter. So that might be experience I have because of who I am. You might actually have working experience. Maybe you installed solar technology panels for years and now you're working in solar technology, but you have zero writing experience. That's okay. I installed solar technology panels for 10 years. I know exactly who your audience is, who your competitors are. I know the buying habits and the long process it takes to make this buying decision, and just whatever it is that you know about that industry. And if you don't have any experience, that's okay too. Talk about the experience you do have. Try to figure out some benefit that you have in your past life or who you are today that might be relevant to the niche that someone's asking you about. Or maybe you won't want to write for the niche, and that's okay too. I always joke that I could write for the financial industry, but I don't want to because that's not something that would interest me or get me excited to get out of bed in the morning. Part of the writer's life and part of AWAI is all about picking a writing path that you're excited about. There's so many ways to make a living as a writer. There are millions of companies looking to potentially hire you. Your job is to decide right now the path that you want to take and to set yourself up so that the clients on that path are the ones contacting you. So again, handle this question with whatever you can add to the conversation. You don't want to lie, you don't want to be misleading, but just think about relevancy. What what experience or expertise or background or understanding do I have? And even if, again, you don't have experience with a certain project type, talk about a different project type. I haven't done white papers before, but I'm a really great researcher. I understand the format of a white paper, and I've done a lot of other projects in this space. So I think I could tackle this one for you. Or you can always say, well, actually, I'm trained by AWI, so I have access to every project type you would ever need me to write. And if a client asks you, do you have experience writing case studies? You say, you know what? I have time in my schedule 3 weeks from now. You go to AWI's catalog, you download the case study program, you take the material, and now you know how to write a case study. So that's okay there. The next question that could come up is, my project is a rush. Can you help? This is going to be completely up to you and your time and how you work. One thing I want to tackle with this, though, is just deadlines in general. You have such input on the deadline. Just because a client calls you and says, I'd like this by Friday, doesn't mean that you're expected to have it by Friday. In a rare case, a client is going to have something, a need like that. And usually it's because an opportunity has presented itself, or another writer has fallen down on the job, and they're hoping that you can pick up the pieces. So what I want you to know with this question is, don't feel like you have to jump on this. It's okay, and sometimes even more attractive for you to say, no, I don't have time to do it by Friday. I have time in my schedule 3 weeks from now because I'm a very busy writer. I have other things going on, not just that's not what you would say to the client, but that's what you're putting out there in that, yes, I'm an in-demand writer. Gordon Graham, he's that white paper guy. He books white papers 6 months out. If you call him tomorrow to do a white paper, he doesn't have time on his schedule because he's that in demand, and that's okay. So when they call and say, I have this rush, can you do it? It's really up to you if you want to do it. And I will say, if someone does ask you to do it by Friday, increase your fees. I can do it by Friday, but I'm going to have to put a lot of other projects on hold. So my fee for that is going to be this. And that's okay as well. As long as it's in your best interest and you want to do this, then it's okay to accept those rush assignments. But I want you to know that you often have say on the deadline. You will typically say, I can have this project to you by this date. Does that work for you? Or you can ask the question, when do you need to have it done by? And let me see if it fits in my schedule. Another one that people fear, and this is because we typically, we come from not corporate backgrounds per se, but the traditional 9-to-5 job. And that's when you go to interview with a company to take a job. One of the things they ask for is, do you have any references? This doesn't happen as much in copywriting, but it does come up sometimes. And it's a great idea for everybody to have a list of references, to have people who are willing to speak up on your behalf. So what does that look like if you have no writing experience? Past employers, people who can speak to your credentials in your area or your area of expertise, a fellow nurse that you worked with. If you're going to be in the medical industry, maybe you're the nurse that you worked with for 20 years in the hospital. It could be, again, a boss. It could be fellow people. It could be customers. Like, if you were in sales or you did consulting, or you were a CPA, whatever it is, there might be people. There could be people in your PTA moms out there, or your church, or your volunteer organizations, your neighbor, anybody who can speak to speak to something about you that would benefit your potential clients in representing who you are. The PTA example, to something to the extent of, oh yes, I served on the board with her and she was so detail oriented. Nothing ever hit the mat. She always met her deadlines. It was exceptional. Anything where somebody can say something positive about you that is relevant to your potential clients. And that's the key with this, with anything, references, samples, anything like that. It's all about relevancy. If I'm a publisher or a business owner or a pet food manufacturer, and I'm asking you for something, you want to give me back something that is relevant, that's going to help me move forward in my buying decision to hire you. So showing me, if I ask you for samples, we're going to talk about that in a second. If I ask you for samples, you won't want to send me a chapter of a novel or your latest poetry, right? Because that's not relevant. That's not showing me what you can do for me. So if you don't have any references, if you don't have past experience, think about people who could. You only need a couple, but think about some people who could give you a very good reference. And think of it just like a job interview. Who could give you a good reference for the work that you do to alleviate the concern of the client? The only person who's asking for this is either someone who's just not completely sold yet, or they're from a company and it's just part of their hiring process. HR has said fill out this form, make sure you get references. And so it's just part of it. And so if they ask for it, hopefully you'll have something at the ready to give them. Some other question that might come up is, can you recommend someone else, something else other than what you do? If you're not a designer or a programmer, you might be working with a small business owner. I'm a CPA and I'm opening a new firm, and so I need a website. And you're gonna write all the web copy, but do you have a programmer? Because I don't know how to do that. I don't have a big enough staff to have somebody on my staff. So what happens then? This is a great way for you to provide additional value to your clients, to partner up with other designers, programmers, people out there in the industry. If you don't know somebody, that's okay. You can even tell a client, I don't, but let me do some research. I'm connected with American writers and artists. I have a very extensive network of people. You go over to the Facebook group, you go over to the LinkedIn group. Does anyone have experience with this? Can you help me with this? I'd love to bring you in and or make a recommendation to a client that I have. Some writers will go as far as to publish their recommended list of vendors, we call them vendors, on their website, which again, just value add to your clients. The point here is it's a great opportunity to be helpful. That's all we're trying to do when clients contact us. Start a relationship, be helpful, be relevant. If you just write those 3 things down, those are your goals. With everything that you do, every response that you make, be helpful, everything that you're providing is relevant, and you're starting to form a relationship. It's not about that first phone call, closing the deal. That's okay. It might take a follow-up or a second follow-up or even a third or fourth or fifth. That's okay. Just know that this is all relationship building. It kind of takes the pressure off to make you feel like you gotta make the sale on the first call. So release that and just remember, just be helpful. And that's what this question is about, is if they ask you for something that's outside of your area of expertise, the scope of what you do, that's okay. Just be helpful. Help them find who else they're looking for as well. And then flip it around. Everyone that you're recommending, find these partnerships and say, hey, designer Maria, when you get somebody who who needs a brand new website, when they're looking for you to design a website and you think the copy is not that great, call me in, refer me too, and we can work together. It's such a great way of getting extra business. It's a great way of working people and building a team that you love to work with. And again, you're just helpful to your clients. And the last one that always makes people like, what do we do? Can you show me samples of your work? So samples are not proof that you've worked with clients, that you have a control, that you have this amazing portfolio. Someone who asks for samples genuinely just wants to see your writing. So your website, great sample. You should think about your website as a sample. Is it doing the job? Is it selling you to your potential clients? We walk you through this in, we have a Build Your Freelance Website in 4-day webinar series. We have the virtual business building intensive coming up where we walk you through each of these components and everything that we teach you how to do, how to build your LinkedIn profile, how to put up your website, how to create an info kit, all of that stuff. They're all samples. But if someone says, okay, I'm gonna hire you to write a newsletter for my veterinary office, do you have any samples of newsletters that you've written? If you've never done any work in your life, you say, sure, I can send you a sample, and then you put together a sample. It doesn't have to have been something that you've done that has great track record or, mailed 1 million times or anything like that. They just want to see, can you show me an example of a newsletter? Like, I want to know what to expect when I hire you. So just put one together. If your specialty is newsletters in the veterinary industry, put together a sample newsletter that you could use as like a sales piece to demonstrate your ability. If you're going to write emails for the health market, go ahead and put together a series of 3 emails selling a health product to your target audience. Worst case scenario, if you don't have time to do that, you haven't done any of that stuff, which again, I do recommend that everybody do this to create samples in whatever it is that you're looking to write. And don't forget, most AWI programs have live assignments that you're working on that can be used as samples. So some of you have gone through our case study certification, for example. Anything in our certification series has hands-on assignments that are turned in, that are reviewed and critiqued, sent back to you so you actually get feedback and can make it look professional. Sometimes we even design the piece for you, that's an option, but you can use those pieces to then show clients, hey, yes, I do have experience writing case studies, here you go. So that was another way of creating samples. But back to my worst case scenario, client calls you and they're in a different industry or something you've never done before. You can just say, I do have samples, but they're not relevant to what this project scope looks like. why don't I just go ahead and write something for you, and then we can see how this works. Like, instead of going all the way in, why don't I just go ahead and write 2 emails for you? I'll create an article for you, a piece of content, so we can see what it would be like to work together, right? We're being helpful. It's relevant content. We're telling them, I don't want to send you samples from the financial industry because you're in the veterinary industry. So I want to make sure that the samples are relevant. I don't necessarily want to send you a 20-page sales letter because you're looking for a newsletter. And so I want to show you something that's relevant to you. That's being helpful. So that's okay too. Can I have a sample to you next Friday? Or again, do you want to work on a smaller project for this first time, just so we can see how we work together? So those are great ways of handling the samples question. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Katie so she can give you some final tips to close out and ensure that your clients say yes, as well as open up for your questions after she's done.
Well, there has been so much great information here, and I hope this has given you the confidence to know that you can handle these kinds of conversations, that this is part of the excitement of being in this business. And like I said, it's exciting for the client too. They're excited to connect with you and to build that relationship that Rebecca stressed. This is not adversarial by any stretch of the imagination. It is very collaborative, working with clients, working with their teams, and knowing that, I hope, relieves any fears. But the biggest thing that I hope gives you the confidence that you need to move forward is that you have the power of AWAI behind you and the power of our training. And I can't tell you how many times over 23 years, you know, Rebecca or I get a call like, oh my God, they just hired me to write a white paper. And of course I said yes, but it's like, I don't know how to write a white paper. And we'll just say, well, let's let Gordon Graham show you how to write a white paper. He's got the perfect program that'll walk you through it. So I can't imagine really any scenarios that you will find yourself in that we don't have a resource to help you. So let's pack that away too, and always know that you have that in your back pocket. But let's go on to just a few final tips. So this is a little where diplomacy is always a plus. When you are reviewing a client's work, obviously you want to show that you know how to improve it. You want to offer suggestions for making it better, more powerful for them, but you don't know who actually wrote it. You don't know who's invested in it or who feels ownership of it. So you always want to be diplomatic and positive in your critiques, in your suggestions. Again, just sometimes some copywriters come in and think that if they kind of trash what they're seeing, that it'll make them look, more of an expert or more, like that they're going to come in and save the day. Where you just have to be mindful of that and respectful and polite, and put a positive spin on the changes that you can make. So, that's just a little something that goes into this whole professionalism, this whole courtesy, this whole long-term relationship building that we're all looking to establish here. Next. Okay. This is another thing. At AWAI, we have so many great templates that you can actually just take and use. We have guidelines from just a wide range of pros who are doing this. Take all this information and use it, but make sure that it actually applies to whatever your client's needs are. Meaning, you don't want anything cookie cutter. You don't want it to be like you're just filling in the blanks. If you're going to use a template, make sure it focuses 100% on the client's needs and their business. For instance, if you were going to write for a health client, in our B2B line, we have a lot of great templates there. take one of the B2B ones, but then apply it to the health business or this client specific business. You know, they may not be doing trade shows, or they may not need sales collateral per se, but take the relevant parts of the template, make it your own, and customize it for every client that you talk to. Next. This is something too that it's a little bit hard for a lot of newer writers to get to believe, to actually feel this in their bones. But especially if you've been through any of our trainings, you know probably more than a lot of the clients that you're actually dealing with, especially if you're dealing with anybody outside of the marketing world. If you're dealing with, you know, manufacturing or mom and pop business, local business, or, you know, even finance or health or vet, you know, all of these things that have been been mentioned today, you know, they know their business. They know how to give the best, you know, accounting advice to their clients. They know how to create the best atmosphere for a thriving yoga studio. But that doesn't mean that they know copy. That doesn't mean they know how to get their message out in a persuasive way. And that's where you come to the table. And that's what you're bringing. So you are looking to complement the expertise that they have with the expertise that you're getting now. So keep that in mind too. Another little thing to have in your back pocket. Next, breathe. This is the most important part of this whole process. Just breathe. Your clients need you as much as you need them, and they are as excited about finding you. They're as excited about building this relationship. You are the answer. You're solving a problem that they have. So no, like I said, this isn't adversarial. It's very, very collaborative. And that's part of the fun of it. That's where both sides learn, where both sides grow. And, you know, the other thing is there's so many clients out there that if there isn't a fit with one, there are 10, 20, 100 more just waiting in line behind there, hoping that you find them as much as you're hoping that they find you. So, you know, keep it all in perspective. And when if you ever get into that feeling that you're overwhelmed or that you're not quite sure, that's when you come to us, call us, write our member services folks, reach out to Rebecca or me. We've been through this. We'd love to walk you through it as well. Next, which brings me back to this point that I feel so strongly about making is that, you know, we've got you. We've been doing this for 23 years. We have seen every form of writer's life take its shape, and it all starts with that very first step, that very first client. So like I said, there's not much that we can't help you walk through. So between our products and our training, between all the free resources that we offer, we've done over 36 of these Inside AWAIs where we really dig down deep. We've had so many special expert focused webinars on really specific topics. We have so many bonus reports and guides. Just our 75, there's our pricing guide, which includes typical prices for 75 of the most common projects that clients need, but it also gives you really insider insight on why they need them and what the most important parts of them are. So, you know, check out those. Our member services team, the best, the absolute best. And if they don't have the answer right away, they know where to find it. They know who to reach out to. And your fellow AWAI members through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through all these communities, they are the most generous, the most supportive. We have a very strong value of paying it forward, which you will see anytime that if you have a question or you need help or there's any kind of situation you're not sure about, there will be somebody that is happy to, that has been down that path and will be happy to give you their insights, their advice, and their encouragement. So that's your biggest ace in the hole as far as I'm concerned. So here are some resources that we think will be helpful for you at this point. They're all fantastic. There's the Writer Starter Kit. If you haven't seen any of these links will be live tomorrow when this is posted. So you'll be able to dig in and learn more about them. But really, these are your like first line investments in your business. These are things that are going to help you not only get the confidence and the know-how to navigate these, but they're going to they're your professional tools. You just need these. This Writer Starter Kit, essential templates for your copywriting business. You know, I love it. I forget who it was now. Maybe it was Elizabeth Blessing. One of the very first things that she ordered when she decided this was the path she wanted to follow was the essential templates. And one of the very first templates that she used, one of the very first things she did when she got it was she printed out the invoice template and filled it out for the first client that she wanted to get, just to go through the steps. And I think she printed it out and had it ready and waiting for the time when she actually did use it. So, you know, there's so much psychological value in these specific products, but there's real practical value as well. Working effectively with web clients and other clients. The lessons here apply to any kind of client you're going to work with. And then this is just a great resource to have as well. AWAI's Simplest Guide to Pricing Copy Projects. That is, again, gives you the range. You always have to take into account the size of the business, the size of the project. Be a little bit flexible as far as that goes with how much experience you have. You know, obviously, the more experience you get, the higher your prices are going to get. But this is a great, you know, ground zero, great starting point for negotiating and navigating those waters. So I think that at this point is the end, yes, of the official presentation, but we want to thank you all. Rebecca, Pam, and I love doing these. I can see there's a lot more activity going on in the Q&A in the chat, so now we're going to open them up. We marked a few that we're going to, that we wanted to call out, but if you have any other questions at this point, please send them in and we'll get to all of them. Rebecca, I'm going to start with one that from Gabrielle, and I love this. She has a prospect with no plan, and she said when the client contacts her, the first thing they said was, you know, what can you do to help my business? And yay for Gabrielle, in true AWAI fashion, she said she worked her way through it. But she's asking our opinion of what do we suggest the conversation look like when the client just knows they need something, but they're not sure what. So Pam, why don't we start with you? You're muted. Pam, you're muted.
Sorry, I was over there answering questions in the Q&A, so I completely missed your question to me.
Oh, okay. What happens when a client just knows they need something, but they're looking to you to tell them what that something is?
Well, we actually cover that in the roll call thing. I mean, the role play thing I talked about, talking with clients inside AWAI, because we have clients that aren't sure exactly what they need from a writer to proceed. They know that they're supposed to be doing multi-channel marketing, for example, and they should be doing demo videos and email campaigns and all this stuff, but they don't know exactly how it all works. And so again, I would say, well, I can help you with that and offer some ideas for them.
Okay, and I think it goes back to finding out what their true intention is. Are they looking to have a bigger prospecting list, a bigger pool are they, you know, looking for just more people to talk to on a regular basis? Then how do you grow that list? You know, what are some of the things? So, you know, maybe a free e-letter would be a great way to do it, or some kind of special offers that way. Or are they looking to sell existing clients something, you know, an additional service? So I think it comes out in the questions that you ask when you're finding out what their real intention is, you know. And if they say, oh, we just want to make more money, well, you know, dig a little bit, you know, what are the ways you're making money now? Oh, and what are the things that you're not quite doing yet?
That's actually a great segue to Peggy's question. Her biggest issue is that she doesn't think quickly on her feet. She's better analyzing and getting back to them. So I'm trying to prepare as best I can. Any suggestions other than having templates or questions sitting beside me during the call? And my recommendation for that is, just like Katie was saying, is just ask questions. It doesn't need to be about you, right? It's always about them. And the most interesting conversations and the ones that move forward the fastest are not the ones where you're talking, right? It's other people feel it's the ones where you're asking them questions and getting them to participate. So don't worry about reacting or answering. Just keep going through and asking questions and listen to what they're saying. You don't have to think on your feet, but a really good conversationalist is someone who genuinely cares about what the other person is saying. So ask questions about their business, ask questions about what's working for them, what's not working for them, things that they've seen other competitors doing that they wish that they could do too, and they just don't know how. Even if they just don't even know what's working or what's not working, find out what those pain points are and come across inquisitive, like you genuinely care. Nobody expects you to come in and know their business. If anything, Kate and I talk about this, like we're kind of put off if someone assumes that they know our business inside and out. We've been doing it for over 20 years. We know our business, you know, we know what our pain points are, and we would love to tell you about them. So rather than assume that you have to know, just ask questions. And it's okay to have a checklist next to you. I have a notepad right here next to me right now.
I don't want to miss anything.
Writing questions and writing answers and thinking so I don't have to think on my feet. I write it all down and then I can think about it later. And then at the end, you just say, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing so much with me. I'd like to think about this for a little bit about how best to work together. And I'll get back to you with a proposal, like Pam said, tomorrow or, you know, the next day.
And your answer will be better because you'll have a little bit more time to stew on it. Believe me, when you're in the shower the next day, that's when you're going to come up with, oh, we could do this. So give yourself the allowance to have a little time to put forth your best thoughts and your best answers. That's normal. You know, it would make me a little nervous if somebody were just like, you know, firing off things when I thought, well, you really haven't thought about it yet.
So then Teresa asked, Brooke mentioned an information packet. We also call them info kits. Do you have any Inside AWAI or links to articles that could help us to learn about those? Early on in the series, we did something on info kits. And Fran, I'm going to ask you, if you can go back, one of the early Inside AWAIs has a list of 5 different info kit examples. I think it was Joshua Boswell's session because it's something that he teaches his coaching students. But if we could post those just to show. I also wanted to point out that on the AWAI website, if you go into our search bar and you search for information kit, info packet, whenever you have a question like that, search in that bar. You will be amazed at how many of the 15,000 articles that we have answer your question. And they do rank based on relevancy. So the more people are finding what they're looking for or using a certain article, it will show up higher in the results. So definitely use that. And I just wanted to go to Phillips because this one relates to Teresa.
Can I add just one thing to that? When you're doing the search, read a few of them though too, because we have so many experts that are contributing. It's like cookbooks. You know, there's so many different ways to make marinara sauce, and the one that's right for you, and you just might glean a little bit out of each one. So the fact that these are so rich and so deep is really a benefit for you to get other people's perspectives too. Sorry, on to Philip.
Well, that's okay, but we do teach info kits specifically. Bob Bly is one of the experts on this topic, and he walks you through writing an info kit as part of the virtual business building intensive. So for those of you who are looking for, you know, someone to really guide you on exactly what to do and give you feedback, that intensive is something that you might want to check out. This is our 6th time doing it over the last 3 years, and we understand that we can write articles, We can talk to you like this. We can do all of this stuff for you, but it's still challenging for some people to actually do the work. So the way we've broken up the intensive is to break it into each piece. So Pam teaches you picking a niche on day one, because if you don't have a niche, it's kind of hard to put up your LinkedIn profile, your website, write your sample. It's kind of hard to do all those things. So we make sure that you have a niche that you're confident with. She signed off on it, we're good. Then we go on to marketing message. Now that you have your niche, somebody was talking in the Q&A about they weren't sure if their website was telling somebody exactly what they did. Like, could they have so much experience, can they make it really like grab somebody? And Kate and I went to a seminar recently on websites, and they said you have about 6 seconds to show somebody, yes, you're in the right spot. This person has what I need. So Nick Usborne comes, he trains you to how to put together a marketing message that you're confident with, that you can say in 6 seconds, and clients know I'm in the right spot. Then we show you how to build your LinkedIn profile. We show you how to build your website and your info kits, and we really go through templates. You get feedback on all of it. So for those of you who are feeling like I could really use that kind of help, that's what the Virtual Business Building Intensive is about. It is intense. You know, we do it over 4 weeks and we rock through that stuff, but we've had 100% success rate. Everybody who's been through the program, we have a survey that closes. Would you recommend this to anybody else? 100%. After 6 times of doing it, we're still at 100%. Say yes, they would recommend it. So Philip was asking, are we going to be doing it again this year? I don't know if we'll do it again. Every time we finish it, we think maybe this is it, but then people ask for it again and we bring it back in, but it won't be done again this year. The next time we would offer it would probably be April or May of 2020. So if it is something you can do, if it is something that you feel is beneficial, then definitely join us. I think enrollment I'm guessing it'll close sometime this week. We have a limited number of spots, but that's another great way of walking through all of those things.
You know, what a great way of setting yourself. You know, I love that it's happening now, because what a great way to start implementing everything. And then you just glide on into 2020, you know, rocking and rolling already.
Excellent. This one's interesting. We get this question a lot, and that's Techno is asking about Beverett Writers Club and, you know, how that all works. But then he was asking, is it possible to get a client in the first month? My answer to that on timing is always back to you. If you do something, if you put up your LinkedIn profile and you get out there and you follow the AWAI method and start promoting yourself, it's very possible. Elise Benin is running a 21-day challenge right now with our members where they are getting clients in 21 days, but they are putting action every single day to building their business. And she's walking them through what action to take, and they're moving forward. So it is possible, but it's not guaranteed, right? It's all on us. Do you have a great LinkedIn profile? Are you able to communicate with clients? Sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to figure out our strategy and our way of working with people. But so there's no guarantees, but it is definitely possible to land a client in a month, as Elise is proving with her 21-day challenge.
Yes. And it's fun. It is such an active group. And, you know, again, it's this camaraderie, and that really, I guess we foster it, but it just takes on a life of its own. You know, we plant the seed and then it springs to life. Let's see. Here's one I think, Pam, you did answer, but I just want to touch on as well, and just talk about it in general. Barbara was saying that she's been approached to proofread 60,000 to 80,000 word novels. And what's the best way to quote a price? Is it, you know, per, you know, so many cents per word or something like that? And I would step back from that and think about, I don't really like to think in terms of per word. I don't even really like to think in terms of per hour. I like to think in terms of per project. But I know some clients are on the per word or thing. But I think what's important for you to do to take control of this, so where you're the boss and where you're figuring this out, is really have an idea of how long it would actually take you to proof that 60,000 or 80,000 word novel, add up the hours, and then, so what hourly rate would you want? And then, you know, you back into it that way. But, you know, what is that hour of your time worth now when you're starting out? And as you progress, it may be, if this is some client that you are just crazy about and you want to get your foot in the door, you know, you may want to go a little bit on the lower side. But if your time is more valuable doing something else, then, you know, value it that way as well too. So just something, again, just changing the mindset a little bit so that you're not kind of work for hire or, getting paid by the word, more of the project, more of the partnership with the client.
Awesome. All right, guys, we don't have any more questions in the Q&A. So if you have any questions, now is the time to post them before we
last call.
While we're waiting for any other questions, our next Inside AWAI is going to be on 6 ways to make 6 figures as a writer. We always talk about there's so many ways to make a living as a writer. We want to kind of show you what that looks like. So if you were on the trajectory for a 6-figure income making as a direct response copywriter, how would you get there? What does that look like? If you're doing B2B, how do you get there? What does that look? What is the job? What are the types of projects? How many projects would you have to take on? So you can kind of get an idea. And if you don't want to make 6 figures, that's okay. You'll be able to back in by saying, I need to make $60,000. What would that look like? How many hours would I work? What kind of projects? So we're going to walk you through 6 different ways to hit that level of income. And again, you can back into the income level that you want. And a couple of them are not traditional copywriter routes. So we're going to introduce you to opening your eyes that this world is literally, you get to make it however you want it to be. You don't have to make 6 figures. You don't have to be limited to this. There's just so many ways to skin this cat. And it's all about how you want to make it.
It doesn't have to be freelance all on your own. Pam has done it all. She's worked for corporate America. She's been a freelancer, and now she's with us, which we don't consider ourselves corporate America, but she has defined her perfect writer's life. And it's going to look different for every single one of you, but that's the beauty, that you have that power to make it whatever works for you.
Yeah, very quickly, when I go on job sites to find different niches that are hiring copywriters, and basically every industry is, a lot of the jobs are full-time, but that may be awesome for you. You may learn these skills and then become the in-house hero who has a regular schedule and a paycheck and all those good things, and that might be fun for you to do. So your writer's life doesn't have to be the same as the next person's writer's life. It's whatever you want to do with this skill. And there are lots of options.
I love Philip. He said, just a comment, I think I'm in love with AWAI.
Oh, we feel the same way about you, Philip, and everyone else on this call.
I love that. All right, we're just getting a lot of thank yous for the great programs. Amazing webinar, very informative webinar. Well, great, we do this every single month, so come back and join us next month. And if you have any requests, these are driven 100% by you guys. So email me at askrebecca@awai.com, and I will get it on the list. We love to do exactly, we never know. We know the big picture. We know what you need to do, but we don't know what specific hurdles you're hitting right now. So if there's something that we can demystify or uncover, or an opportunity we can help you take advantage of or whatever, we're in. So just tell us what you need and we're happy to get on like this and hash it out with you. All right, guys.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everyone.
Bye.